All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to talk about something fun. Floyd Mayweather Jr. busting out a reporter and ESPN for telling stories about the Errol Spence Jr. Terrence Crawford fight, or sharing stories, however you want to label it. But man, I thought it was hilarious. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we are going to talk about Floyd Mayweather Jr. going at it with a reporter that goes by the name of Mike Coppinger over reports related to the Errol Spence Jr. Terrence Crawford fight, where Floyd Mayweather Jr. basically tries to get Mike Coppinger fired by ESPN. It says you got to get your reporter to stop spreading fake information about this fight. Now, before I get into the details of it, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are a new viewer, please accept my invitation to hit that subscribe button, hit that bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. And if you are a longtime subscriber, a supporter like my man Stone Alone, thank you so much for your support in the super chats and in the Cash App and in the super thanks that you can do in this video. Really does help the channel go. So let's get into it. Obviously, big fight taking place, hopefully, between Errol Spence Jr. and Terrence Crawford. There were some reports that came out about 3 weeks ago from Mike Coppinger that I'm telling you, man, if you hadn't seen my videos on it, Meg, look, let me tell you right now, as soon as I read the stuff, I was like, man, when are people going to stop believing Mike Coppinger? Mike Coppinger reports that the fight is pretty much signed, and that that Terrence Crawford has agreed to all of the material terms associated with the fight, and that the lawyers are just finalizing the language, and after that, the fight is going to be done, right? Later on, when the fight doesn't take place, Mike Coppinger then reports that the reason that the fight didn't take place is because Terrence Crawford wants transparency into the finances of it, right? Now, right along with this transparency, he also throws in the word approval, which a lot of people brushed over. However, there is a big difference between transparency and transparency plus approval of expenses. But we will get into that. We've gotten into that so many times. Let me get on to what Floyd said. Floyd says, ESPN, your guy, you got a great organization, love your organization, ESPN, but you got to get this guy stop telling stories, right? Pretty much saying that you're feeding the information, you're feeding the public with false information. Now, Mike Coppinger responds to him and says that, didn't you notice that the tweet said that the deal had not been finalized, and that it was with the lawyers for final documentation or to clean up the language. And then Mike Coppinger straight up contradicts himself and says the holdup for the fight is, why won't you provide Terrence Crawford with transparency, because that's what's holding up the fight. Floyd Mayweather Jr. responds and says, that's not true. And if it is true, please produce the paperwork that you have to say that is what's holding up the fight. Otherwise, we can't go off of hearsay. Now, here's the funny thing, man. ESPN has gotten rid of some reporters now. Okay, let me tell you, I watch ESPN. I watch ESPN when Dan Rayfield started having problems with Bob Arum, and when he had problems with Eddie Hearn, when Eddie Hearn accused Dan Rayfield, said that he was providing perks for Dan Rayfield, right? Then another ESPN writer, Steve Kim, started to get in a lot of trouble related to some things that he was saying that was really insulting a lot of black boxing fans in the United States, and they wind up sweeping him off. Now you're going to have Floyd Mayweather Jr. just flat out there jumping on his timeline, adding ESPN and saying this guy is making up information. Now, Mike Coppinger can get as defensive as what he wants. about that, but he can pick up the phone or send a note to somebody that is with the PBC and say, hey, man, I'm about to report this story. Do you guys have anything to say about it? And they may say, I don't think that that's true. And if he had said in his reports that I talked to somebody from the PBC says that's not true, then he could have covered both of his bases. But as it stands right now, he's pretty much with one of the biggest names in boxing out here calling this dude a story, right? And telling him he's making stuff up. Now, Mike Coppinger can come back and, like he did, and say, try to point the finger and ask a question like, what's up with the transparency? Nah, Mike, you put out 3 reports. One report that the fight was almost done and it was going to be on October 19th. The second report that you put out said that the fight was almost done and it was going to be November 19th. Now, then you put out one and say, after Dan Rayfield and other guys report that the fight's not going to happen until later, you come out with this thing about the reason that the fight is not being held up is because the PBC is being unfair to Terrence Crawford. It almost sounds as if you are just being very, very one-sided in your reporting against the PBC and got busted out by one of the biggest guys in the PBC, which I think is interesting because usually a lot of this stuff is directed at Al Heyman, who does not do any public speaking around these issues. Like if you were to report something that was wrong, that Bob Arum thought was incorrect, Bob Arum would say something. If you said something that Eddie Hearn thought was not true, Eddie Hearn would say something, right? But in this scenario, when you're talking about what the PBC is holding up, Al Heyman is not somebody to say that. Now Floyd Mayweather Jr. has jumped out there. I think that this is a big knock on Mike Coppinger. Number one, you keep breaking news that ain't true. Right now, you can say what portion of it you think is true, and you can write all kind of nice little outs for yourself in it. But the fact of the matter is, you reported that this fight was going to be done in October, and then you report that the fight is basically done in November. It seems like you may be getting your chain yanked by somebody over there at Terrence Crawford's team, right? Even the idea that transparency into all of the expenses for somebody else would hold up the fight when you say the man is not getting a guarantee. He's only getting net from the pay-per-view. And you already know that Showtime will tell you what percentage that they're going to be taking out for their costs. It's between, according to Steven Espinoza, it's a little over 90% for some, a little under 90% for other fighters. For other fights, go to the fighter. So there's really what are you going to do? Go get approval? You're going to ask Showtime to approve everything that you do? I don't think so. But anyway, man, I thought it was some one-sided reporting and really going out of their way to try to make the PBC look bad in that situation. And Floyd called his bluff, man, and we'll see. Obviously, he's not going to be able to produce any information or any documentation, to support what he said, unless ESPN ask him for his sources. At which point in time, I think you still have because he's a journalist, he does not have to give out his sources, even to the paper that he works for. So anyway, interesting stuff. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.